Hi, I'm Brittany and welcome to my channel. In this video today, I'll show you how I paint cherry blossoms in watercolor. Here in Utah, it hasn't been feeling like spring at all yet. We've had a really snowy winter and now it's well into April and we're just barely starting to see our grass and the leaves are starting to think about coming out. So I'm really excited for spring this year, and these cherry blossoms really put me in the spring spirit. And so we're going to paint these today. What you'll need is your paper. The paper that I'm using today is this Artistico Extra White 100% cotton, and this is cold pressed. Then you need your watercolors. This is just one of my favorite palettes. I can link to it below. And I've just filled this palette with Winsor & Newton professional grade watercolors and Daniel Smith. And there's a few Holbein in here as well. I'll have a link to all the colors that I use below. Then you'll need your brushes, and I'll be using my Princeton Heritage Round size 10, my Princeton Neptune size 8, and then for the tiny little stamen, I will reach for my size 3, and that's a Princeton Heritage brush. And then of course you'll need your pot of water. I just have that off to the side here. I also like to always have a sponge with me and a paper towel to dab my brushes on. So let's get started. Before we dive into this bigger painting, I want to show you step by step how to paint these little cherry blossoms. We'll paint some that are looking like they're facing right directly towards us, and then we'll also paint some that look like they're on the side, and we can practice painting these little buds and also the branches. So let's go ahead and start practicing those. And then when you feel comfortable, you can dive in and start on this bigger sheet of paper. So to begin with, I'm going to mix my colors. I have some pink paint here on my palette already. And this is just a mixture of my Opera Rose, probably a touch of my Winsor Red Deep, and my Indian Red and Jaune Brilliant #2. You want to get a really watery mixture so it's not super dark. These cherry blossoms are really light, the ones that I like to paint. So make sure you're pretty watery, and then you can test that on your paper. That looks just about right. So I'll start with that. Pick up some of that pink paint. For my cherry blossom that's going to be facing directly towards me, I'm just going to paint these little teardrop shapes, pointing into the center. Here's our center right here. I'm going to point them into the center, and I'll paint 5 of them. I'm just lightly painting with my brush these teardrop shapes, pointing right towards the center. And that's definitely not perfect. I didn't get it very symmetrical, but it doesn't matter. In the end, these are just going to look like beautiful cherry blossoms. And if you look at a real branch of cherry blossoms, they're not perfect. So don't worry about being too perfect. Just put your brush down, make some shapes, and we're going to call them cherry blossoms. And I promise they're going to be very cute in the end. For the center of my cherry blossom, I'm going to make a darker mixture here with my Winsor Red Deep, my Jaune Brilliant, and my Opera Pink. I'm going to just dab my brush on this paper towel, just make sure I don't have too much water on there. While my cherry blossom is still wet, I'm going to just dab lightly in the center here and let that darker color bleed out into that light pink color. I'm just going to leave it. Okay, let's practice another one of those. Another way you can make these cherry blossoms is start with the darker center. And you can give yourself 5 little dots to show you where that center is going to be. Just kind of make a star like that. Rinse your brush off and pick up the lighter pink. And now this gives me a guide of where those little petals are going to go. Just touch into that darker paint with my light pink mixture and create a little petal shape. You want to do that before that center color dries. You want to be pretty quick about it. And then I'm just going to go back in again with that darker mixture. Just darken it up right here in the center. Now going back to this one, if you feel like it's bleeding out too much, you can go in and mess around with it. I'm just pushing it back into the center. Okay, so that's how you paint the forward-facing cherry blossoms. Now for the next cherry blossom, I'm going to make it so it looks like it's facing to the right. So let's pick up the light pink. Okay, so I'm going to paint a crescent shape, like a moon. That's the first petal I'm going to start out with. Now on this other side, you can paint 3 or 4 petals. Technically there would be 4 petals, but usually I just paint 3 because it won't fit 4. Just do 1, 2, and I'm pointing them in like this is the center. 3. Just like that. Pick up that dark color again. Indian Red, Opera Rose, and Winsor Red Deep. This time I'm only going to touch on this side and drop that darker paint in. So that blossom looks like it's facing towards the right. You can face it in any direction that you want. So let's go back to our example here. And you can see some of these I've painted 4 petals on the side of that crescent shape. Some of them I've only painted 3. You can decide how you want them to look. So let's try one with a smaller petal over here and 4 petals on this side. And I'll have it facing down. So I'm just going to, again, paint a little crescent shape. I'm going to keep it smaller this time. And I'm going to start with the center petal. 1, 2. Some can be smaller. Here's a smaller one. 3 and 4. And then I just dropped in that darker color again to bleed out into the light pink. Try one more of those. These flowers really are pretty simple. That's all it takes to make these cute little blossoms. I have friends that tell me that they can't paint or they have no creativity in them whatsoever, and I don't believe them. I believe that anybody can paint these. It just takes a little time and practice. Okay, now we're going to practice a little bud. So I'm picking up my smaller size brush. This is my size 3. And you'll just paint one little teardrop shape, little oval. Then I'd pick up that darker color again. And just drop it in the bottom here. If you want to do the opposite way, you can start with the darker color. Rinse off your brush. Have some pink and touch it into that dark red. Just like that. And then you just draw a tiny little stem. These buds are super easy and fun to paint. They're so cute. Paint a few more of them. Pick up the darker paint while this light paint is still wet. Dab it in the bottom. Pull a little stem. Now let's just practice the branch that will connect these cherry blossoms to. I'm picking up my burnt umber. We'll just practice a branch over here. Get kind of thick to start. Just kind of wiggle your brush and then bring it to the point. Like that. wherever you want to make these little branches. Like one's coming off here. Practice one coming this way. And then to add a darker shadowy side, I'll grab my Payne's Gray and my Burnt Umber to make almost the super dark, almost black brown. And you can just dab this in on the underside of that wet paint. Get a little more depth in shadowy areas. Okay, so that's really all it takes to create the branches that we're going to be painting. Once these cherry blossoms are dry, we'll go back in with the darker, thicker paint mixture of the red, Winsor Red Deep, Opera Rose, and Indian Red. And we can make the little stamen that come out of the center here. Just with these little tiny soft strokes and these little dots on the end. You can choose to do yellow if you like. I'll take some yellow. Here, let's see if this yellow will show up. Yellow with a little bit of brown. And on this one, let's paint some yellow. That's cute with the yellow. Whichever color you want, you can even do a little bit of both. Some yellow over here. So we'll paint those on. We probably won't choose every single flower to paint those on, but in the end, when we go back and add the detail, we'll put some of those stamen in our little cherry blossoms. Okay, now I'm going to take off this practice sheet and move on to our larger painting. To begin our painting, I'm going to take my pencil and just draw in a little bit of where I want the branches and the flowers and buds to go. I don't love drawing too much, so I just kind of quickly do this part because I am always just in a hurry to get to the fun part, which is the painting. So I'm just following the practice painting that I did already, and I'm just going to draw kind of where I want my branch to come. Bring it out here. Really come out to about there. And then I split it off over here. You can have a couple little branches coming down. Then this one I kind of just came straight across. I might come down a little bit more than I had it. Start over there. And then I had one coming down out of the corner here. These ones coming out of the corner were shorter than those longer branches. And one more over here. And coming up. All right, then I will draw in some circles just to show where I'm going to paint the flowers, the forward-facing flowers, the side-facing flowers, and the buds. So I had a forward-facing flower here. But for the side-facing flowers, I'll just kind of draw an oval. And a bigger one here. I just like to draw something simple like that. So it kind of gives me a roadmap of where I'm going. But I can also change it up if I want, and I don't have to stick straight to it. Okay, I will go ahead and get started on this branch, and I'll do this in slow real time. And then when I finish it up, I'll speed this part up so we can get through that part quickly. I will probably paint the flowers first, and then I'll come back in with the branches, just because if I have things overlapping the branch, I can make those breaks in the branch afterwards. So again, I'm going to take that light pink color, which is a mix of Winsor Red Deep, Opera Rose, and a touch of Indian Red. And I'm starting really light. I like these cherry blossoms to be super light. We'll start with this one right here. Again, I'm going to be pointing my point of the brush to the middle and rounding the edges of these blossoms. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm not worrying about this branch because I'm going to paint that in later. Okay, and then you can look at the shape, see if there's anything that you need to fix. These petals don't have to be perfectly round, they don't have to be perfectly smooth. Makes them look more organic and natural if they're not. Now I'm picking up my red, darker red color, and I'll go straight into the center here and drop that right in the middle. And let it spread out into that light pink paint. And I'm just going to leave that blossom just like that. If you want on some of these blossoms, you can go in and put a little bit of that dark color on the edges as well. Give it a little variety. I'll do that here. I think I'll go ahead and paint these forward-facing flowers first, then go back in and do the side-facing flowers. Here's another flower right down here. When I teach these flowers to my students, I notice that they have a hard time getting this paint light enough. So don't be afraid, just keep adding more water and get it to a very light pink. The longer you wait for this to dry, the less it will spread out. So I'm just looking at the sheen on my paper. Looks like it's probably ready for me to dab that in there. And I'll leave that one just like that. Okay, let's move over to this flower. Normally when I'm painting these flowers, I twist and rotate my paper so I get a better angle, but I'm not going to do that while I'm filming. So if you need to twist your paper, by all means move it around however you need to. Okay, just moving on down the branch and continuing the same flowers. The more paint you dab in the middle, the farther out it will spread. And you want to go pretty dark with that because notice how this one, it looked really dark in the beginning, but it dries lighter than you think. I'm getting a little yellow mixed in with it, which is fine. It'll give me kind of a corally pink color, which is really pretty. Some of your petals can be shorter than the others. They don't all have to be the same size. I love the way that paint just spreads out and does its thing. Makes them so pretty. Okay, moving on to the side-facing flowers. Start this little guy right here. Make a side petal, kind of a crescent shape like that. And now I'm going to make the 4 petals over here, or 3 if you can't fit 4. 1, 2, and varying them in sizes a little bit. 3 and 4. I've got quite a bit of water right here, so I'm going to wait before I drop any darker color in on that one. Let's go over to this guy. Make a little crescent shape. 1, 2, 3. Doesn't look like I'm going to fit 4 on this one, does it? That's okay. Maybe that one lost a petal. One facing this way. And this guy a little bit smaller, and he's going to overlap into his buddy right there. It's fine. Don't be afraid to let your flowers touch each other. See how this is doing. It's still a little bit wet, but I'll pick up a really dark color and tap that in here on the center of these petals. Get some more paint. Let's do a bigger one over here. And make this random shape with a thick line right there. And do 1, 2, kind of make that one in the middle stand out more. 3 and 4. Okay, now I'm going to look around and see if there's blank spots that I want to add some more blossoms to. Could probably add one right here, maybe one over here. See if we can fit a little one. I'm going to switch to my smaller brush for this. This is my size 6 Velvet Touch Princeton brush. Let's just do another open and forward facing flower. I'll add one more small one right here. Okay, now looking around, I think we're pretty good. I'll paint the little buds and then we'll paint the stem and the branches in. So again, I'm just taking a very light pink, painting these little watery teardrop shapes or oval shapes. Right here. I'll let those dry for a second before I drop in the darker color. There's a few more down here. These really are just the simplest little cute little buds. Now I'll take my darker red mixture and see if they're ready for a little drop. All right, now we'll start on the branch and then we'll connect all these flowers and buds together. So I'll get my mixture of my burnt umber. I'll just start over here on the side, and when it's coming out, it's thicker over here. I'm gonna stop it when I come to a flower and continue it. Make it kind of wiggly and jagged, just like a branch or a stick would be. And I want to get skinnier towards the edges here. Break it apart right there. While that's still wet, grab my darker Payne's Gray and Burnt Umber mixture. I'm going to grab that and put it on the underside of this branch. Now, I want to give some little stems and branches connecting everything together. So I'm picking up my burnt umber, adding a little Indian red to it for more of a reddish color. And anywhere there's a little flower, I'm just going to connect to the branch. Those I'll probably do with more of a red color, so I'll come back to that. Now I will grab more of a reddish color and just attach these cute little buds. A couple more up here. Now I'll just make some tiny red buds that are like they're not even open at all coming off of some of these. So one right here. A couple of them. One coming off of here. Like they haven't quite started opening up yet. Where else? Are in here somewhere. I think that's a little guy. Now just go back through, see if you need to add some more buds or some more flowers, whatever you think. Don't have any buds over here, so maybe I'll just throw some in. once you feel like you have it filled in enough, we can just let it dry, and then we will go back in and paint some stamen in on some of these flowers. All right, for this part, I'm going to zoom the camera in so you can see what I'm doing closer up, and I'm going to paint the stamen in the center of some of these flowers. So I want a dark red, the Winsor Red Deep, and my Opera Rose, and my Indian Red. I want a thick mixture of this. I'm going to just dab the excess water off on my paper towel. And we'll just start with this one right here. Just from the center going out, you can make these little tiny strokes. And then just put little dots on the end of them. If you want some of them to have yellow, you can just pick up your yellow. If you have yellow gouache, that would be a good idea to use. I'm just going to use the thick mixture of my yellow watercolor. Then I'm just going to dab some yellow in here to give it a little pop of color. Some of these, maybe I'll just leave the centers with a few dots of yellow like that. Put some on this guy. That little guy, I'll put some yellow here. They just randomly go around. I like the pop of yellow, so maybe I will put that in the center of most of these. And then decide which ones I want to put the stem in. I'm picking up my red paint again. I'll just go in here to some of these and add in some of those skinny strokes. The stamen. You don't want to go overboard with this, so not every single one needs them. I think I'll put some right here. And this one could use a little touch of color here. Maybe a few more. Let's go over here. Maybe on the ones that I didn't do stamen, I can put a few red dots. Okay, and I think I will call that good for this branch. Okay, so now I'm just looking around, seeing if there's any white space to be filled in. If everything looks good. I still need to add a little bit of stamen on these flowers here. So I'll finish that up, and then I think this painting will be finished. This part right here, I need to connect second behind this little flower. It looks like the final thing I need to do is just go in and erase those circles. So let's go ahead and do that. And we will call this piece finished. This is just really fun, cheery spring piece. You can also make really cute thank you cards out of these cherry blossoms. Thank you so much for joining me in this video and for your support and for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope this tutorial was helpful and that you enjoyed it. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks. I'm picking up, what is this called? Hey, bud. What? No, we gotta get homework done. You already played today. Okay, just let me finish my video and I'll talk to you in a minute.